but you know, driving down the street, you see that beautiful house, and you and your wife or significant other want to buy that house. You find that great dream house. How hard is it to get a mortgage today? Is it harder today than it was 6 months ago or even a year ago?
It's a good question, TJ. We work with a lot of professionals like Chris and Hillary, and whether it's today's market or 10 years ago, we've always pushed to get that pre-approval, get the work done, look at your credit. We're looking for the same things we've always looked for: 2 years of work history, 3 months of reserves, just a good history, good credit overall. You know, there's still programs out there for 3% down and 5% down, so you can still do those type of things. But the biggest concern is getting the buyer into our office first and really fine-tuning what they can afford. And it's we're glad to see that many of those lenders are gone, that we're just approving people for the maximum. You know, we like to say it's not what I can get you approved for, but what you're comfortable paying each month. It's a big difference. So keeps a reality check there, so they're into affordable housing right from the get-go.
Chris, you're optimistic, obviously. Yes. So where do you see housing prices going now?
Oh gosh, housing prices. That's going to be difficult to really predict. Housing prices are very much tied to demand in the market. So if we have increased demand this spring and limited supply, it's always a function of the supply and demand. So if we had limited supply and increased demand, then housing prices could trend upward. However, if everyone who's been waiting to sell their home puts it on the market in the next few months and we have a ton of supply and then that unemployment rate creeps up and we have less demand, we're going to end up with housing prices decreasing or staying steady. So it's a tough thing to predict, but I would say that we probably are going to see prices holding steady would be my guess.
I know that you know, I've also heard in the news and seen on the reports that you know, an infomercial. I was up the other night, you know, a little late with a sick child, as you know, we all have those occasionally. I was watching this infomercial about this big foreclosure auction, and you know, come down to you know, someplace in Boston, and they're going to teach you how to buy all this foreclosed real estate. So it got me thinking about this. You know, there are foreclosures that are out there, unfortunately. What are some of the pitfalls? I guess Hillary, you're probably best for, you know, as an attorney. What are some of the pitfalls about buying a home through a foreclosure auction, whatever that reason may be?
Well, there's definitely a lot of different things and a lot of aspects of buying a foreclosed property. In regards to some of the legal pitfalls that you really need to be careful about is which lender is the foreclosing lender and where do they sit in the chain of title? Because anything in front of that mortgage lender will remain on the property, and the buyer will be responsible for paying those loans. So if it's a second mortgage lender, the whole first mortgage will still be there. Most often, it's the first mortgage lender who is foreclosing, and then the things that the buyer needs to be aware of is that they would be liable for condo fees, real estate taxes. If there's any federal income tax liens on the property, they're not necessarily liable for paying that, so long as they notify the federal government of the situation and that they don't close before the 120-day response time is up. So it really depends on where in the chain of title the foreclosure is. Anything behind it will be wiped out automatically. Anything in front of it, the buyer is going to be liable for. Again, it's important to hire an attorney to do the research for you.
Bill, you were talking about November and December. You're seeing a lot of pre-approvals happening. Where do you see interest rates going now?
Well, back in November, right around Thanksgiving time, the Treasury came out with a plan to inject money into mortgage-backed securities. And this was the master plan to see if they could lower interest rates. And if you right around that time, rates were 6.25 in general, and they went down a full percent when that first allotment of money went through. They did that for a couple of weeks, and it worked out very well. The plan is for the next 6 months, or carry us right into June and July with this plan of injecting billions upon billions weekly into the mortgage-backed security, at least to keep them low. 5% is a good window to focus what rates are with 0 points, but on any given day, there's going to be a 0.5% swing possibly, because no matter how much money you put into the market, at the end of the day, the economy still governs what's going to happen. So with unemployment, jobless claims, and housing stats. I mean, the list goes on of what can affect those rates.
Oh. Chris, kind of get back to you for a second about, what I look out there. It seems like it's a great opportunity for buyers. That the market, there is some stuff that's on the market, but is this really a good time to sell? And or is it better time to buy? Where are you seeing the activity?
TJ, it is really a great time to buy, as you just said. It's we have low prices, the interest rates are lower than they've been since 1969, and we have the government incentive of the $8,000 tax credit. So it's a great time to buy. Whether or not it's a great time to sell really depends. I mean, it depends on why that person is deciding to sell. If they're selling to buy up, that's terrific, because they're, even if they say are selling for 20% less, selling that $400,000 house for 20% less, than buying something at $700,000 house for 20% less, you make out there. I mean, the savings is greater than the hit that you're taking. So that would be a beneficial time to sell your house to get into something else. If you have an investment property and you're just feeling like, I'm not sure if I want to stay in the market right now, I think I'm just going to get rid of this investment property and take my money out, that might not be such a great idea. You might be better off keeping your money invested, unless you're reinvesting in the market. But if you're just pulling out and not reinvesting, it might be better to hold on to it for a few more years, let some of that appreciation come back.
Makes sense.
So Hillary, you were talking about the buyers and the sellers and representation. Can the same attorney work for the buyer and the seller?
No. Buyers and sellers' interests are not aligned. It would be considered a conflict of interest. A buyer, however, and a lender can have the same attorney. And in fact, that's somewhat beneficial to a buyer.